All right, it's time to talk a little fantasy football, people. And if you had any of these guys starting in week 3, I would say you probably had a good chance of coming out on top. Lamar Jackson leading the pack with over 40 points in standard leagues. But, you know, these guys had solid outings. And there were a few guys that had some breakout performances, which leads to week 4 waiver wire pickups. Let's start with number 5 in Alexander Madison. Now, Dalvin Cook, he's usually that guy in the backfield for the Vikings, but he left the game early with a dislocated shoulder. So it gave Madison an opportunity here, and he stepped up in a big way with 7 carries for 28 yards and a TD in their win over the Lions. Now, the Vikings said that Cook should be back, but considering the shoulder issues he's been dealing with, I would be sure to maybe just stash Alexander, you know, on the bench or in your back pocket in case Dalvin Cook has to deal with those in week 4 and maybe come out early. Number 4, we got Mac Hollins. He's just really taken advantage of Hunter Renfrow's injury, and with a second straight solid performance. Week 2 caught 5 of 8 targets for 66 yards, and in week 3 he went off catching 8 of 9 targets for 158 yards. Oh, and a touchdown, putting up double-digit fantasy points over the last 2 weeks. Now this week versus the Broncos, that is kind of a tough matchup, but I would maybe start him as a flex because he put up some really big numbers. Number 3, Khalil Herbert. David Montgomery, with him going down on Sunday, this opened up an opportunity for Herbert, and he stepped up as well with 20 carries for 157 yards and 2 TDs in the win, earning 28 points in standard leagues. Now, that performance launched him to top 5 running backs through 3 weeks here. Now, with David Montgomery dealing with that injury, having to leave the game, they said he's day-to-day right now, so that's something to keep an eye on. But if he is out or not 100%, he's going to get a lot of touches here. Number 2, David Njoku. Now, this guy was due. This was the tight end that I said you should probably pick up in the beginning of the season, and he was underutilized for the first 2 weeks, but really stepped up here in week 3. He caught 9 balls for 89 yards and a score on 10 targets, earning over 14 points in standard leagues. Now, the Browns, they don't really have many options in the receiving core. It seems like he's a guy behind Amari Cooper, so he's getting a lot of momentum here heading into a matchup against the Falcons. And number 1, this was a guy that he was my sleeper heading into the preseason, Romeo Doubs, and he finally got an opportunity here, people. He scored the first touchdown of his career in week 3 on top of a team leading 8 targets for 73 yards. Listen, he led the Packers in targets, catches, and yards, and has caught over 87% of passes thrown his way. So this guy is a stud in his rookie season. He had a great preseason with Aaron Rodgers. They developed a friendship. Now it just came down to trust, and you can tell Rodgers was really starting to trust this guy in his receiving core, so I think you should pick him up. Definitely a flex option on your fantasy team. And those are my week 4 waiver wire pickups.